What's up guys, welcome back to Stauffer Garage. Today's detail is of a Dodge Durango that is completely trashed on the inside. We have our work cut out for us today. Everything's gonna get ripped out. We have so much dirt in the seats. There's dead bugs on the dashboard. Whew, this one's gonna need some work. So I'm expecting 8 to 10 hours for this detail. It's gonna need a little bit more time than typical, but it's gonna turn out insane, so make sure you stick around to the very end to see the end results. If you guys are new and you like these sort of videos, hit that subscribe button down below, turn on notifications so you don't miss out on details just like this, and let's go ahead and get started. Cheers. I think my one tip when it comes to vacuuming is if you have panels or covers or anything like that, especially in the back of the car where there's spare tire wells or like tool compartments like this one has, get underneath those as well, because you never know when you're in those areas how dirty they are until you actually need to use them. And getting them clean when you're doing a vacuuming in general is always a good idea. And I'll be completely honest, I actually didn't realize this was a third row Durango. So when I got into the back of the car and I started picking these panels up, I kind of had like an oh crap moment that there's more extracting and detailing to do. But in the end, that third row actually was pretty clean and didn't have a ton of dirt on it. So it made actually the extraction phase pretty easy. So for this detail, if you can't tell already, I started actually in the back of the car and started working my way forward. So after the vacuuming was done, it was time to take that third row out of the vehicle. So that way I could really assess how much dirt was underneath it and the extraction portion that needed to be done in that back portion of the carpet. Now it was time to work on the center row, which the center row was a little bit more tricky with getting the bolts out, because the way a lot of these cars work is the bolts go through the frame and they expose the bottom portions of it. So when they get slightly rusted, you actually have to pull some of that rust through and get it kind of work through the threads, which can be a little bit tricky, a little bit scary, but at the same time, usually a little bit of PB blaster or just kind of slowly working the bolts out will make sure that you won't break anything. But I did have to pull out, instead of my 3/8 impact, I had to pull out my 1/2" air tool to get these out because they were in there big time. But once I got them out, I got the middle row out, and it was honestly surprising with how heavy this thing was. Holy shit. That thing was heavy. My wife always asks me why I have so many tools. And it's for occasions like this, where you don't know what you're gonna need. So like crowbars or air ratchets of every different size. They all come in handy at some point. And when you don't have them, that's when things suck. In the last video, and even several videos from the past, I've had people mention, why did I suck up those pennies or coins or anything in general? This time, guys, I made sure I separated them before I sucked them up, no matter how dirty they were. Whereas in the past, I usually just pulled them out of the shop vac at the end of the day. But this time, I collected them all before. So what I need you guys to do is vote in the comments below. Let me know what your guess is based on what you see in this video. How much change did I find in this car? And whoever guesses closest first will get a free set of Fox Clean detailing brushes. Once I have that center row out, I kind of vacuumed up the floor, removed all the debris from the floor itself, and then I worked up to the front of the car. And the front of the car was definitely where usually most of the dirt is, but the best part is when you actually get underneath those front seats, that's where you usually find all of the fun treasures, because they fall between the center console or they get somehow stuffed underneath the front seats. This is where you find the good stuff. Like Tim McGraw, for instance. I also want to mention that I've got tons of requests from everyone from the last video that I mentioned. If you live in the Central Ohio area and you want to get your car featured on Stauffer Garage, to shoot me an email. that still applies. So if you want to go ahead and reach out to me, please feel free to at thestoffergarage@gmail.com. I'll have my email in the description box below for you guys as well. But I'm trying to make sure I schedule as many of you guys as possible so I can feature your cars. So if they're dirty and they're disasters, shoot me an email. So whenever I have a customer drop off a car that has all of the stuff still in it, I usually use some sort of plastic bag or box and put everything in there no matter what it is, unless it's blatantly obviously that it's trash. I put it all inside of a box and then usually put it into the trunk after the detail's done for them to sort through and kind of figure out what they want to keep at that point, so that way I don't have to be the judge of that. One tip when you're pulling the floor mats out of your car, always try to roll them up to get all the dirt staying inside of them instead of spilling onto the carpet to minimize your work. Or if you have a vacuum handy, just go ahead and vacuum up the top of it, at least initially real quick to get the big bulk off of it before you pull out of the car. At the end of the day, you're gonna end up vacuuming it anyway, so if you do it in the car, out of the car, even just at a minimal level, you kind of help yourself out. So now that all the seats are out of the car, the next step of the puzzle is getting the center console out of the vehicle, because one, this thing is completely trashed. Two, there's going to need to be a ton of edge work done on the carpet there because of the spills and stuff like that. So getting out of the car is usually pretty straightforward. For anybody that's trying to do this themselves, it's pretty intuitive. There's usually bolts on the side, somehow underneath the cup holders, or in this case, there's some that are underneath the cigarette lighter in the front portion of it. But generally, there's some simple, easy access bolts to get to. They're usually not hidden in any way, shape, or form. So if you want to do this yourself, it's something that you can do pretty easily if you kind of get your seats out of the car first. Now that we have the entire inside of the car vacuumed, we're going to start the extraction and cleaning up process of the floor mats and then the seats themselves. But this car had a bunch of these rubber mats on top of the other floor mats as well. I just went ahead and sprayed them with an all-purpose cleaner and kind of let them sit off to the side and soak while I worked on the other floor mats. One tool that really came in handy is the Lily brush, which if you guys have not tried before, it's definitely a really nice tool to have when you have any sort of hair, whether it's dog hair, human hair, cat hair, you name it. If it's in your carpet fibers, it does a really good job at getting that pulled out very, very quickly. And with that being said, I will actually be clearing those on my Fox Clean website. So if you guys haven't ever checked it out, I sell detailing brushes on there, but I'm going to be expanding my entire lineup to include not only Lily brushes, but I have a few surprises that are coming out very, very soon that I'm excited about for you guys. So for the carpet floor mats, in my spray bottle, I have Chemical Guys Carpet Cleaner, which has a nice odor eliminator in it. It also is low sudsing. Then I'm using my drill brush to agitate the surface and get all of that dirt lifted up and out of the fibers before I follow up with my extractor that just has pure hot water. Now for the floor mats themselves, or any carpet for that matter, or cloth seats, sometimes you have to do 2 passes, and when you do those 2 passes, the second time, try to go a little bit more slowly over those troublesome spots, so that way you make sure you truly get that saturated with that solution to get it lifted from that fiber. And the same goes with extraction. When you're extracting, take a little bit longer, try to eventually get to the point where the water coming out of it does not have any more sudsiness solution to it, and is also starting to get pretty clear. Now it's time to move on to the front passenger seat, and the passenger seat was not as bad as the driver's seat, but it was still pretty nasty when it came to extraction. So following the same process we did with the floor mats, we're gonna spray it down, we're gonna drill brush and agitate it, and then we're gonna follow up with our carpet extractor. Once I had the seats completely cleaned, I always try to do the base and the sides and the different trim pieces last. Sometimes, depending on how dirty they are, I'll do those first, but in this case, it wasn't too bad to the point where I couldn't do them after. Now for the creme de la creme, the driver's seat, which is obviously looking pretty nasty. For this one, obviously, like any carpet, start off making sure you have everything vacuumed perfectly, then following them with the same process that we did on the previous seats. And for this seat, I actually expected to do 2 passes right off the get-go because this was a lot of oily, gasoline, greasy stuff that was caked into these fibers. And usually the first pass through, you're not going to see as much sudsing from your solution, which means that, you know, it's really definitely a greasy surface. And then by the second pass, you should see a lot more sudsing when you're doing the drill brush portion. So for this seat, I actually did 3 extractor passes after I had done the drill brush portion, just to make sure I pulled out as much liquid as possible. But the one thing that the one caveat to all of that is when you do cloth seats, there's a lot of foam underneath, and you have to do enough but not put in too much fluid inside of it because the seat itself will get too saturated. But then there's also all of that dirt and liquid in that foam itself underneath the top layer that will eventually come to the surface too. So it's kind of like a happy medium that you have to come to when you start seeing the solution coming into the extractor, becoming clear but not quite all the way, that sort of thing. It's kind of a balance that you have to take, and you kind of gain that from experience. So this last extractor pour from this second seat, I'm gonna go with Yoo-Hoo on this one. Now for the backs of the seats or the trim, I don't know if I mentioned earlier, but I'm using an all-purpose cleaner. This can be Simple Green, this can be, Chemical Guys has an all-purpose cleaner. Everybody carries some sort of all-purpose cleaner. And what you're gonna wanna do is usually do about 10-to-1 ratio with water to solution in a spray bottle of some sort. And then I'm using my bristle brushes that I got. And then I'm using my bristle brushes to just kind of work the fluid into the surface, which is slightly textured, and into those nooks and crannies. Now for the third row, I did the same process that I did with the front seats, but for the middle row, I did it slightly differently because I wanted to give you guys an option for if you're cleaning your seats and you don't have an extractor, which 99% of people don't. This was a method that you could do as well to get your seats clean. So I laid a microfiber towel down across half of the seat on the front, and then I'm using Full-X to spray liberally onto the surface, and then a stiff bristle brush to agitate and work it into the fibers itself. The great thing about Full-X is you're not using a ton of fluid. You don't even have to extract it from the surface. And for majority of cases, I've been able to get a lot of stuff out. It can be a little bit more time consuming than an extractor, but it's easy to do. And if you're just doing this on the weekend and you don't want to buy the extra tools, it's a really good option. But once you've worked it into the surface, just get a clean microfiber towel to wipe off the dirt that has been lifted to the surface. Now that we have the extraction done of the seats, we're gonna move to getting the door panels clean. And for this, I'm using my all-purpose cleaner, my bristle brush. I always start with just cleaning off the door panel first, and then I usually follow up with cleaning the glass, and then I use my Chemical Guys Silk Shine as a top coat to make it look more brilliant, to make that plastic look more rich and look more like factory new. And the reason why I went into the door panels at this point is because my steam cleaner had been heating up because we were going to be tackling the center console, which is gunked with tons of hardened goo and sticky stuff. And that's where the steam cleaner really comes in handy. And I have my steam cleaner listed in the description box below from Amazon affiliates if you guys want to check it out, along with everything else that I use in my videos. But for steam, the best part about it is it's really, really simple. You're not using any chemicals. And for certain processes like this one right here, it makes it really easy to get all this dirt and grime that's on this center armrest off, and also the cup holders clean that you can't really get too easily, even with a bristle brush, because it's just so caked in there. Now for the center armrest, I did do 2 passes using my bristle brush to help as well. But at the end of the day, I got it about 80 to 90% better than what it was. But I think there had been some that kind of leached into the surface of the plastic and the vinyl leather that kind of just essentially discolored it permanently. Like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, this is probably one of the longer details I've done. There's only been a couple more that took a little bit longer, but with there being so much extraction needed to be done, this one took me, I'm at this stage, I'm probably about 6 hours into the detail already, and I haven't even started on the carpets or wiping down the dashboard. Now we're going to be moving into extracting the carpets, and I like to start with the passenger side, kind of work my way around the car and end to the driver's side. When you're doing the extraction portion, when you pull out the center console and the seats, this is really when you see the reward from it and all that extra work, because it makes it easier for you to move around, get in out of the vehicle, and just make sure you get everything clean from the carpet standpoint that you probably would have missed if you left those pieces in there. Now for the driver's side, it's definitely where the caked on dirt is. This is where you kind of have to do those 2, even 3 passes, because the first pass, getting that surface loosened up a little bit so you can even extract anything. The second pass is to do a little bit more cleaning, and then third pass hopefully is the last one that you have to do. But also hopefully you don't have your car sitting for this long with this much dirt to the point where it gets to this level.
Start it up.
Now that we have the front carpets, the middle carpets, we're going to move to the back carpets to get extracted. And this is that trunk carpet that covers that little sub compartment. And when you do the drill brush portion, you guys can probably see all of the slinging that typically happens, which this is going to happen regardless of how slow you go, because at some point you're going to make it flick somewhere. That is why I wait to do the lower trim pieces and any of the wiping down of those interior panels to last. And now that we got the lower portions cleaned, we're gonna go wiping down the panels starting at the rear and working our way forward to the dashboard, which is going to be the final piece that gets cleaned up. And with everything cleaned off with my all-purpose cleaner and covered with my top coat, it is now time to do my windshield, which is the final step in the entire detail. Thank goodness, because this one took a whopping 9.5 hours to complete. I literally worked on this one from 3 p.m. to past midnight, and then I had a little bit more to do in the morning after everything kind of dried out. But in general, guys, some of these details take longer than others, and because they do, that's why you don't see me working on the inside or the outside of the car for certain details. But thank you guys again for watching today's video. These before and after shots showed the transformation that I think turned out insane. Like, the seats themselves was probably the biggest portion of it. But if you guys like today's detail, smash that thumbs up button, subscribe if you're new, and make sure notifications are turned on so you don't miss out on any more of these disaster details. And thank you guys again for being part of the Stop for Garage crew. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.